in the same way that conscience and shame are established in the consideration of good and evil. Therefore these two, i.e., non-craving and non-hatred, are found in all good minds. What is non-delusion, amoha? Its nature is that of clearly apprehending both principles and events, and its activity is that of countering delusion and promoting the good. According to one interpretation, non-delusion is by nature discernment, because the Abhidharmasamuccaya says that its substance is that of certitude, derived from retribution, teaching, evidence, and knowledge. These are discernment born of innate, discernment, hearing, thought, and cultivation, respectively, all of which are certitude by nature. Even though non-delusion is discernment, it is distinguished in order to illustrate how the category of good has a special power, in the same way that among the passions, wrong or views are a kind of discernment.
According to another interpretation, non-delusion is not discernment but has a nature of its own, because it directly opposes ignorance, avidya, and, like non-craving and non-hatred, it is categorized as a root of goodness. The Yogacadrabhimi Sastra says that the great compassion, maha-karuna, is categorized as non-hatred and non-delusion, not as one of the faculties, indriya. If non-delusion is by nature discernment, then the great compassion, like the powers, etc., would be categorized as a faculty, like discernment, etc. Also, if non-delusion has no separate nature of its own, it must not really exist, just as non-harming, etc., do not, but that would contradict the Yogacarabhumi Sastra, which says that among the 11 good, mental activities, 3 exist only conventionally, while the remaining 8 really exist. Now, when the Abhidharmasamuccaya says that non-delusion is in essence discernment, it is expressing its self-nature in terms of cause and effect, just as it expresses the essence of faith in terms of its cause, acquiescence, and its effect, enjoyment. The principle here must be the same.
Craving, hatred, and delusion that are associated with the 6 sense consciousnesses are categorized as true passions, and they are predominant in the generation of evil, therefore they are established as the roots of non-good. Their elimination necessarily results from both common and special antidotes. The only common antidote is good discernment, while the special ones are the 3 roots of good. Consequently, non-delusion, amoha, must exist separately. Visur, virya, is diligence. Its nature is that of courage and resoluteness in the cultivation of good and the elimination of evil, and its activity is that of acting as an antidote to indolence and the fulfillment of the good. The term courage signifies unchecked progress, which excludes defiled dharmas. Resoluteness signifies purity and excludes pure, indeterminate dharmas. These terms show that diligence is categorized as by nature good only.
The varieties of vigor are, in summary, 5: donning armor, intensified practice, not being depressed, not retrogressing, and not being satisfied. They are expressed in scriptures as respectively being inclined, being diligent, being courageous, being determined, and not abandoning the good yoke. Their distinctions are as follows. The first one consists of the preliminary arousing of the thought of enlightenment, the second one consists of unchecked progress to higher levels, and the last 3 are the 3 grades of effort in one's practice. Or, they may be distinguished as follows. The first is the preliminary arousing of the thought of enlightenment, the second refers to length of practice, the third refers to uninterrupted effort, the fourth refers to the great amount of effort, and the fifth refers to completion of effort. Or, they may be distinguished as the 5 paths, consisting of equipment, samhara m4rga, added effort, prayaga-marga, insight, dargsana-marga, cultivation, bhavana-marga, and realization, nishtha-marga, because those in the ultimate path of the 2 vehicles delight in great awakening, and those in the ultimate path of Buddhahood delight in benefiting others and making them happy. Or, they may correspond to the 2 kinds of preparation li, distant and proximate, non-interruption, liberation, and unchecked progress.
Serenity, prasrabdhi, means lightness and contentment. Its nature is that of keeping the gross and heavy far away, regulating and comforting body and mind, and making them fit for meditation. Its activity is that of counteracting torpor and transforming the support, which is body and mind. It subdues and banishes the grossness and heaviness that obstructs samadhi and changes the support into one of serenity and pleasantness. Vigilance, apramada, is vigor and the 3 roots of good. Its nature is that of avoiding that which is to be eliminated and cultivating that which is to be cultivated. Its activity is that of counteracting negligence, pramda, and realizing and fulfilling all mundane and supramundane good things. It consists of 4 dharmas. It is called vigilance because it is the ability to eliminate that which is to be eliminated and to cultivate that which is to be cultivated. It has no substance of its own, because it has no characteristics that differ from vigor and the 3 roots, and because it has no function that differs from the 4 powers in avoiding evil and cultivating good.
Even though faith, conscience, etc., also have this ability, in comparison with vigilance, the power of those 4 is slight. They are not roots of good, nor do they universally stimulate the good. Therefore, they are not the support of vigilance. Question: frowny face, are avoidance and cultivation not the characteristic and function of vigilance? Reply: what is the difference between avoidance and cultivation on the one hand and vigor and the 3 roots on the other? Reply: frowny face, these 4 require vigilance in order to function. We reply: frowny face, then, vigilance itself requires something else in order to function, thus resulting in an infinite regress. They reply: vigor is merely the universal stimulation of good dharmas, and the roots are merely their support. How can you say that they have the function of avoidance and cultivation? We ask frowny face, what is the character of the functions of avoidance and cultivation? If they serve as supports, that is, the function of non-craving, etc., if you say that it is that of universally stimulating good dharmas, that is, the function of vigor. Thus, preventing evil and promoting good is the activity of these 4 dharmas.
That which prevents distraction must be samadhi. How does vigilance differ from contact which causes experience of an object? Memory must prevent forgetting. If we investigate this manner in such a way, no function of vigilance can be found apart from the 4 dharmas of non-craving, etc. Therefore, it is certain that vigilance has no separate substance. What is indifference, upekkha? Its nature is that of vigor and the 3 roots that cause the mind to rest in equality, uprightness, and effortlessness. Its activity is that of countering agitation and calming the mind. That is, the 4 dharmas of vigor and the 3 roots cause the mind to be far removed from the obstacles of agitation, etc., and to rest quietly in equality, uprightness, and effortlessness, which is called indifference. These 3 forms of indifference, equality, etc., indicate differences of primary, middle, and later stages. Impurities are eliminated at first through vigilance, and later indifference causes the mind to rest calmly. It has no separate substance, because, like vigilance, it has no character or function apart from these 4 dharmas. This is because it is those dharmas that bring about calm, and it is mind, etc., that are calmed.
What is non-harming, avihimsa? Its nature is that of not causing injury to living beings, as well as non-hatred. Its activity is that of acting as an antidote to harming others, and being compassionate and sympathetic. In short, non-hatred is conventionally referred to as non-harming because there is no injury to sentient beings. Non-hatred is opposed to the hatred that ends the lives of beings, and non-injury opposes the harm that injures beings. Non-hatred extends happiness, while non-harming banishes suffering. This is the difference between their apparent characteristics. In fact, non-hatred has no substance of its own, while non-harming is conventionally established by virtue of being an aspect of non-hatred. The 2 are distinguished in order to show the 2 characteristics of compassion and sympathy, because benefiting sentient beings and making them happy are the essentials of the 2 characteristics. According to one interpretation, non-harming is not the same as non-hatred and has its own substance, which is goodness. We ask,